Revealed. My lawyer's heartwarming call changed everything about my daughter-in-law's hidden life. Joe sat at the kitchen table, the flickering light of the overhead bulb casting shadows on the stacks of unpaid bills, stacked like the remnants of his fraying hope. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the faded photographs of happier times with his late wife, laughter flooding the empty air. He was a devoted father, a single dad trying to shield his teenage daughter, Lily, from the harsh realities of their modest life in Maplewood. Just as the sky seemed to gather clouds, his thoughts turned to Sarah, his daughter-in-law, whose seemingly perfect life haunted him. Every post he scrolled through showed her smiling in the chicest outfits, running a successful clothing line while volunteering at the local shelter. With each passing day, the gap between his reality and her apparent success felt like an ever-growing chasm. But deep down Joe felt something was off. A gnawing feeling he couldn't shake, a disconnect that only intensified as the demanding strain of overtime at the hardware store wore him down. Just as doubt clouded his mind, Joe received a call from Mark, his lawyer. When the phone rang, anticipation and anxiety gripped his chest. As he settled into familiar worries over finances, Mark's voice penetrated the storm surrounding his thoughts, full of warmth and concern. "Joe, we need to talk about Sarah," he said. A chill ran down Joe's spine. "There's more to her story than you know." "More? What do you mean?" Joe's voice cracked, distrust creeping in. Mark hesitated, then continued. "Sarah's built her life from hardship. She's a survivor of domestic abuse. It's how she's found strength in wanting to empower others." Joe felt the ground beneath him shift. His anger simmered. For months he'd thought Sarah's life was effortlessly perfect while he was struggling to provide for Lily. Anger surged through him. How could she hide such pain behind a polished facade? Overwhelmed with a mix of betrayal and empathy, Joe's heart raced. Could he reconcile his animosity toward her success with the understanding of her struggles? Just then he caught sight of Lily, perched on the stairs, her eyes brimming with confusion. The weight of his emotions made it impossible to even smile at her. His daughter, wrestling through her pain of losing her mother, now felt the full brunt of their family's disconnections. The walls of their home felt like they were closing in, and Lily, caught in the middle, spoke up, her voice tentative. "Dad, can't we just talk to Sarah? She might need us." A skepticism twisted in Joe's gut. Something deep inside him wondered if his anger was truly justified. Before he could respond, the tension in the room surged. Days passed, filled with silence and missed connections, leaving them both isolated. Then Mark called again, his voice urgent yet kind. "Joe, you have to understand. Sarah isn't just an entrepreneur. She's courageous. She uses her story to inspire instead of retreating." Joe felt his heart soften just a bit as a flicker of understanding broke through the hardened shell. Maybe bitterness held him back from seeing the family he could still fight for, even in brokenness. Would he cling to anger? Or was it time to explore a different path? But as reality set back in with the familiar weight of financial fears pushing down, Joe couldn't shake the feeling of their fragile life, dangling above sharp rocks. The question hung heavy in their shared silence: could he really reach out, allow healing to seep into their lives, or would the past swallow him whole? The uncertainty wrapped around him like a shroud, leaving lingering doubts with every tick of the clock. Joe stared at the wall, a swirl of emotions colliding inside him. The weight of Mark's words lay heavy on his heart. Sarah's seemingly flawless facade had become a barrier, separating him from her truth. And now here he was, standing in the shadows of struggle he couldn't fully comprehend. Lily shifted on the stairs, her eyes a mix of hope and concern. "Dad, please. Just reach out," she implored, her voice trembling. "She's family." Family. Joe took a deep breath before answering. But what did family mean when so much hurt hung in the air? He had spent the last few years protecting Lily from life's cruelties. Yet here he was, clinging to bitterness that didn't just poison him. It put a strain on Lily too. After an agonizing silence he finally whispered, "What if we're just opening up old wounds?" The fear in his voice caught both of them off guard. He felt trapped between wanting to protect his daughter and the urge to understand Sarah's journey. Lily reached for her phone, her fingers flying over the screen. "I'll message her," she declared. Her youthful resolve was both inspiring and frightening. "If we don't do anything, this anger won't go away." Joe watched her, struggling against the urge to say no, to prevent more complications. But he couldn't deny the flicker of hope in her eyes. What if talking to Sarah led to healing? What if they learned to navigate their pain together? Minutes felt like hours as they waited. Joe's fingers drummed nervously on the table, his mind racing with possibilities. Would Sarah pick up the phone? Would she be angry? Or would she welcome them with open arms? Finally, a sound broke the quiet. Lily squealed softly, her face lighting up as she read the response. She wants to meet. Tomorrow at the cafe downtown. Joe's heart stopped, then raced. Tomorrow? The idea of confronting Sarah, of facing the truth behind their disconnect, filled him with dread. Yet part of him felt alive. Perhaps this was the chance to bridge a gap that had pulled their family apart for so long. I don't know if I can do this, he stammered, still tangled in fear. Dad, Lily said, her voice steady. You have to try. We all do. Her unwavering faith ignited something deep within him. If Sarah was a survivor, maybe Joe could learn to be one too, not just for himself but for Lily and their fractured family. He took a cleansing breath, feeling a glimmer of resolve emerge through the turmoil. "'Kay," he whispered. "I'll do it." As night deepened around them, he couldn't shake the knot forming in his stomach. They were walking into unknown territory, and he feared what truths lay in wait. But the prospect of hope was intoxicating, potent enough to quiet the noise of despair. Joe closed his eyes, imagining a future where they could reunite, where he could finally understand the woman who was once the light in his son's life, and might still hold a piece of that light again. When they met, what truths would emerge? Would healing start to mend their hearts, or would the past strike back with venom? The hour before the meeting felt like a lifetime, but Joe knew there was no turning back now. Tomorrow would mark a pivotal moment in their lives, one that might redefine everything. The next morning arrived too soon. A gray sky loomed overhead as Joe stirred from sleep, the weight of what lay ahead pressing heavily on his chest. He could hear Lily moving around the kitchen, the sound of her voice drifting in soft notes as she chatted with the radio. Each word felt like a reminder of what he would face. The clash of emotions, the hope, the anxiety, the fear whirled inside him like a storm waiting to break. As he dressed, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. He looked older, worn down by the years of bottled-up anger and regret. Joe wished he were as fearless as Lily, the way she stepped forward into uncertainty with an open heart. He felt like a child again, hesitant and unsure, afraid of what lay beyond the door. "You ready, Dad?" Lily called, her cheer piercing through his thoughts. "Almost," he replied, forcing a smile. He joined her in the kitchen, where she was pouring a cup of coffee. "You look excited." "I am. It's going to be okay, you'll see." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and he found himself mirroring her hopeful energy, even just a little. They arrived at the cafe early, the smell of fresh pastries wrapping around them like a warm embrace. The hum of conversation enveloped the room, a soft background to the tension in Joe's heart. He scanned the crowd, anxiety fluttering in his stomach. What if Sarah didn't show? What if it was too painful to face her? But there was no turning back now. "We can sit over there," Lily suggested, pointing to a cozy booth in the corner where they could watch the entrance. They settled in, and as Joe sipped his coffee, he felt a moment of calm. For a heartbeat, he dared to dream that this encounter could heal the cracks in their family. He watched Lily's enthusiasm, the way her fingers drummed against the table in gentle rhythms. It was a reminder that even amidst their pain, there was room for hope. Then the door swung open. Joe's breath caught in his throat as Sarah stepped in. Her presence filled the cafe, pulling all eyes towards her. She looked different, like she had shed some of the burdens he always saw. There was a strength about her now, a gravitas that only came from surviving storms and learning to navigate through them. She paused, scanning the room, and when her eyes landed on Joe and Lily, the world outside dissolved away. "Hey," she said softly, her voice barely cutting through the buzz of the cafe. "Hey," Joe managed, his heart pounding. He motioned for her to join them. Lily slid aside, a smile brimming with warmth on her face. "We're so glad you came." Joe watched as Sarah moved towards them, emotions swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. He could see the flicker of fear in her eyes mirrored by his own. But there was something else too: curiosity, tenderness, and the barest hint of hope. As they settled into the booth, Joe could hardly breathe. The silence stretched, filled with so many unsaid words. Would this be the moment for revelations, for understanding, or would it all fall apart? Sarah looked at them, her expression tense. I've been thinking a lot lately. The moment hung in the air, thick with possibility. Joe knew the truth was close. It was out there among them, waiting to be uncovered, but the fear lingered just the same. What would it take for each of them to open up? Would they find the courage to confront their past? Little did they know that the path ahead wouldn't just expose old wounds, it would lead to discoveries none of them were prepared for. Joe's heart raced as he met Sarah's gaze. It felt like a decade since he had truly looked into her eyes, each silent second stretching, taut with tension. What have you been thinking about? He finally managed to ask, his voice almost a whisper. She ran a hand through her hair, a gesture both familiar and heartbreaking. About us. About how the past has shaped us, and how much I've missed. She hesitated, emotions battling for dominance on her face. I've missed having you both in my life. The weight of her words hung between them, and Joe felt something shift. Could she possibly mean what he hoped? That perhaps, after all these years, there was still a chance for reconciliation? Lily leaned forward, her eyes shining with anticipation. Mom, I've wanted to ask you so many things. Lily chimed in, her voice steady. It's been hard not knowing. I want us to be a family again. Sarah's expression softened, but there was a shadow of doubt still lingering. I didn't know how to come back. How to face the memories that suffocated me. She sighed, her vulnerability raw. I thought it would be easier to stay away, to protect myself. Joe's chest tightened. Protective walls had long divided them, trapping them all in shadows of their own making. We all have things we need to talk about. Things that hurt, he said, feeling the knot in his throat tighten. But avoiding it won't help any of us. For a moment silence engulfed them again, the kind that felt heavy yet hopeful. Joe's mind swirled with images of their younger selves, laughing, dreaming before life's tumult had crashed in. Maybe we can share those burdens together? Lily finally suggested, breaking the ice with a tentative bravery reminiscent of her mother's earlier spirit. We can figure out how to move forward. Together. Tears glimmered at the edges of Sarah's eyes, and Joe's heart twisted painfully. Her nod was a tremor of resolve. Okay, let us do that. As they began to talk, the words flowed clumsily at first. Old wounds were peeled back, and Joe recalled moments when anger had towered over understanding, a bitter barrier that had suffocated love. But with each shared piece of history, they began crafting a new narrative, one that included the scars they carried. Lily listened, her fingers nervously twisting a napkin as tales of past misunderstandings tumbled onto the table. I didn't know that's how you felt, Mom, she said softly as pieces fell into place. I thought you just left. No, I thought I was doing the right thing. Sarah's voice cracked, revealing the depth of her anguish. But I see now how wrong I was. I can't change the past, but I want to make amends. Joe's heart swelled with a blend of anger and empathy, but he could feel the heaviness of progress, tiny threads weaving their stories back together. What if we visit places that meant something to all of us? Start new memories? Sarah's smile was tentative, yet it ignited a spark of hope he hadn't dared to feel before. That sounds wonderful. As laughter tentatively broke the shadow of their past mistakes, the air around them lightened. The cafe's warmth felt like a hug, wrapping around them in this fragile moment of rebuilding. But deep inside, Joe felt the knot of unresolved feelings lurking, waiting to be addressed. Would new memories be enough to erase the pain of the old ones? And as hope fluttered on the edges, one question loomed over everything like a dark cloud. What truly lay beyond their newfound willingness to try? As they finally left the cafe, the sun shone brighter than Joe remembered. Each step outside felt lighter, almost as if the air had shifted around them. He could feel a sense of hope blooming, yet the unease in his chest raised questions that lingered. Would this attempt truly mend their fractured family? Or was it just another facade? Lily looked up at her mother, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Can we go to the park next? That's where you took me for ice cream when I was little. Her enthusiasm was contagious. Of course. That sounds perfect, Sarah replied, her smile growing genuine. As they walked, Joe stole glances at Sarah. She seemed different, more vibrant. It was as if acknowledging the past had allowed her to reclaim a part of herself. And yet, His own heart weighed heavily with doubts and fears about what they were diving into. The park loomed ahead, vibrant greens and bright flowers reminding Joe of simpler times. Memories unfurled, playful afternoons lost in laughter, and that one summer evening that had changed everything. He focused on the present as they crossed the threshold of the park, Lily pulling them forward in palpable excitement. The anticipation in the air created a bubble around them, isolating their small group from the rest of the world. Sarah sat on a bench while Lily charged toward the swings. He watched as his daughter laughed, her joy echoing against the trees. "I want you to be happy, Sarah," he said suddenly, breaking the fragile silence that enveloped them. "I want that too so much." She shifted on the bench, her hands resting nervously in her lap. "These past years have weighed heavily on me. I get it. We all carry weight." He searched for words, reaching for the right approach. "It's not just about the past. It's about the now and the future. We have to be honest with each other. No more secrets." Her eyes flashed with something unspoken. "I've kept a lot hidden, things I thought would shield you both from my pain." The confession sat thick between them. Joe felt the urge her to open up, to unload the burden she had been carrying alone. "Maybe that's the first step. Just tell me, what have you been hiding?" A moment of silence stretched like a tightrope between them, and he could see her wrestle with the decision. "Joe, it's not easy. I thought I could protect you by keeping my struggles to myself. When I left, I didn't just leave you both. I left a part of me behind as well." He reached across, resting a hand on hers. "You can't fix this alone. You never have to. We'll face it together. All of us." Sarah's breath hitched, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of release in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, she leaned closer. "Then let me tell you about the phone call I received last week. It's about Lily and some things from when she was just a baby." The warmth of the sun began to fade, swallowed by the coolness of impending night. Joe felt a chill run down his spine. What could this mean? What had she stumbled upon? With trepidation he steadied his voice. "What do you mean?" Just as she opened her mouth to speak, a sharp cry broke through the park, jarring the moment. Joe turned to see Lily tumble from the swings, landing on the grass with a soft thud. "Mom! Dad! Help me!" Their moment of connection was instantly shattered. The urgency in Lily's voice pulled at Joe, reminding him that the past wouldn't he let go so easily. As he rushed to Lily, he realized this was just the beginning of their journey. What awaited them in the shadows of their shared history? And would revealing those secrets truly set them free? Joe's heart raced as he sprinted towards Lily, the other parents in the park momentarily forgotten. Panic drove him, pushing aside the lingering conversation with Sarah. He knelt beside Lily, taking in the sight of her crumpled form sprawled on the grass, scrapes marking her knees. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked, brushing back her hair with trembling fingers. "I'm fine, Dad." She sniffled, her voice shaky but resilient. I didn't hold on tight enough." Relief cascaded through him, warming the cold knot of fear that had gripped his chest. He helped her sit up, inspecting her knees, then wrapped an arm around her tiny shoulders. "You scared us for a second," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "I wanted to swing higher than anyone." Lily looked back toward the swings, a determined spark lighting up her face despite her recent tumble. "Maybe just a little less height for now, huh?" Joe chuckled, forcing down the tightness in his throat. From the corner of his eye he saw Sarah moving closer. Her worried expression softened as she took in the scene. Joe shielded Lily with his body, a protective instinct surging through him. But there was something in Sarah's gaze that drew him closer to her again. "I'll check her out, Joe," Sarah said, kneeling beside them. "Lily, can you show me where it hurts?" As Lily excitedly pointed to her knees, Joe couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in the atmosphere between them. In mere minutes, the weight they'd been carrying had been lightened by this moment of normalcy. After ensuring Lily was fine, they all settled on the grass, the tension of earlier conversations momentarily setting aside. "I'm hungry," Lily chirped, bouncing back into her usual self. "Can we get ice cream now?" "Sounds good to me," Joe grinned, though the thought of ice cream felt superficial against the backdrop of everything he'd just heard. "Let us go," Sarah said, taking Lily's hand in hers. They walked together, and Joe could feel the connection growing among them, tethered by a purpose that felt new. But just as they reached the ice cream stand, Lily let out a squeal of excitement when she spotted the large cone-shaped sign. Joe's heart soared alongside her, but he couldn't shake the burden of Sarah's earlier words. While we wait, can I finish what I was telling you earlier, Joe? Sarah asked, her tone shifting again, reminding him of the weighty things still unsettled. Sure, he sighed, glancing at Lily, who had momentarily gotten lost in her choices. What is it? I got a call from the lawyer who handled my mother's estate. They're looking for Lily too. They found some papers that mention her. Joe's heart sank. The anticipation of Sarah's words entangled with dread. Mention her? What do you mean? Sarah's gaze turned serious, the previous lightness now replaced with her determined expression. There are things from my family's history that could affect her, things I didn't know until last week. Like what? She paused, the soft rustle of the wind surrounding them. Then she spoke, her voice low. They think there's a connection to something much bigger. Something that could explain why my mother left, and why I felt the need to keep secrets. His mind raced. The edge of his world threatened to tip again. Mom, I can't decide. I want all the flavors. Lily's voice broke through, drawing both of their gazes back. She was the perfect reminder of innocence in the midst of turmoil, but the deeper undertones of uncertainty clung. As Sarah opened her mouth again to explain, Joe felt a flicker of both fear and hope. Would this unravel their attempts at unity? Or would it help rebuild the bridge between their past and futures? Somewhere deep in that moment, Joe understood. This would change everything. What kind of revelations awaited them in this hidden history? And how would it shape Lily's future? Joe forced a smile, trying to mask the unease that simmered inside him. All right, sweetie. Let us get you all the flavors, he said, watching Lily bounce in excitement. She was lost in our joyful little world, oblivious to the shadows darting through her parents' hearts. Sarah took a deep breath, clearly wrestling with her own turmoil while Lily thrust her hand toward a rainbow of ice cream. The girl's innocence was a stark contrast to the weighty conversation looming over them. I just don't want to hide this from her, Sarah finally said, her voice steadier now. I think she deserves to know. Know what? Joe asked, a slight edge in his voice. The family drama? I'm not sure that information is helpful right now. No, Joe. It's more than that, she pleaded, her eyes locking onto his. It's about who she is, and all the pieces that may be part of her identity, pieces that I never understood myself. I want her to know her roots, even if they're tangled. Joe crossed his arms, grappling with the notion. But is uncovering this tangled web going to help her? Or just confuse her? I think she deserves the truth, even if it's messy, Sarah insisted, her fingers trembling slightly. Our families leave marks, we can't pretend they don't. Lily turned back, ice cream cone precariously dripping, her attention split between a colorful display and her parents' serious expressions. Can you two stop talking like grown-ups? I'm really hungry, she exclaimed, and a light laugh escaped from both Joe and Sarah, briefly lightening their clouded thoughts. All right, Joe chuckled, turning to Lily. Choose your flavors. The world is your oyster. He ruffled her hair, his heart swelling with love. Yet, in the back of his mind, the conversation loomed like a storm. Lily enthusiastically pointed at a bright blue scoop. Blueberry. And sprinkles. And chocolate. I want it all. As Joe stepped to the counter to finalize their order, he couldn't shake off Sarah's words. What lay buried in the history that could affect Lily? Was there a legacy of pain or joy waiting to come to light? The thought sent shivers through him. He couldn't bear to see his daughter hurt. Once they had their cones, they wandered over to a nearby bench. Lily took her first bite and her whole face lit up, her delight infectious. This is the best ice cream ever, she exclaimed, her laughter ringing out in the cool air. Glad you love it, kiddo, Joe said, taking a moment to breathe in her happiness. But his gaze drifted to Sarah, who stared off into the distance, 1,000 thoughts flickering behind her eyes. What happens if we bring this up with Lily? Joe asked finally, his mouth tight. He wanted the words out, to name the tension that hung between them. Sarah paused, looking directly at him. We figure it out together. No matter how hard it gets, we can handle it. In that moment, Joe felt something shift. The strength in her voice ignited a tiny spark of hope. Maybe they could navigate this new chapter. Maybe they would come out stronger. Just then Lily broke in. What's the big secret? Can I know? Both adults froze. The question hung in the air, startling in its innocence. Joe exchanged glances with Sarah. There it was, the moment he dreaded most. Could they break her world apart and piece it back together again? What do we say? He whispered to Sarah, heart pounding. She swallowed hard, the weight of the world reflected in her gaze. As Lily's eyes sparkled with curiosity, Joe suddenly wondered if the truth might be the very thing that could bond them all, or if it would tear them apart completely. How could they balance answering her while preserving the fragile joy of childhood? The thoughts spiraled as they sat in silence, a question looming heavier than any ice cream cone ever could. Lily's question hung between them like a fragile balloon in the wind. Joe felt the tension shift, the air thickening with unspoken fears. What should we tell her? He mouthed to Sarah, the urgency in his eyes growing. Sarah's expression was filled with a mix of resolve and fear. We don't want to overwhelm her, but she deserves to know something. What if she can't handle it? Joe whispered back, his heart racing. Lily was bouncing in her seat, blissfully unaware of the gravity of the moment. Dad! Mom! Are you going to tell me? She asked with a wide-eyed grin that threatened to crack their resolve. Joe squeezed his eyes shut for a brief second, taking in the sweetness of her anticipation. He forced a smile, but the weight of their shared history loomed large in his mind. Okay, how about this? We tell you something special about our family, he said, hoping to strike the right balance. Yeah, something special. Lily echoed, her excitement bubbling over. Right. So Joe began slowly, glancing at Sarah for support. Every family has its stories, and sometimes they can be a little complicated. Like a puzzle. I love puzzles. Lily interjected, her enthusiasm brightening the heavy mood. Yes, exactly, Joe said, feeling a small flicker of relief. And these puzzles can help us understand who we are. So Lily, he took a deep breath. There are parts of our family story that we haven't shared with you yet, and we'd like to start doing that. Just not all at once, okay? Lily's face scrunched up, processing the vague response. Is it a surprise? Yes, but a good surprise. It will explain some things about you and our family, Sarah jumped in, her voice softer. Like where you came from and what makes you special. Lily's eyes sparkled with curiosity, yet there was a flicker of uncertainty that Joe noticed. Like a superhero backstory? Sort of, Sarah nodded. Everyone has one. Yours might be a little different. Lily took a moment, licking the melting edges of her ice cream cone, contemplating. Can I just make up my own backstory? Joe chuckled. Sure you can. We want you to feel like you can create your own story as you grow up. Okay. She grinned, reveling in the freedom that such options gave her. But in the corner of his mind, Joe was still wrestling with the reality of sharing a deeper truth. A truth that might reveal family secrets, histories, and complexities that could rattle Lily's innocent world. He caught Sarah's eye again, her brow furrowed as if reading his thoughts. She too felt the gravity of what was to come. So when do we get to hear more? Lily asked, innocence threading through her eager voice. Joe and Sarah exchanged glances, uncertainty morphed into a shared commitment. Soon, Sarah replied, forcing confidence into her voice. But for now, let us finish our ice cream and plan a fun family day together. We'll choose the next place where we can discover some history, maybe even find some of your favorite stories? Lily squealed at the thought, ice cream splattering on her shirt as she jumped up in glee. Can we look for treasure too? Treasure of memories, Joe smiled, embodying a semblance of hope amidst the bittersweet whirlwind of emotions. As they wrapped up their treat, Joe realized that each day they danced around the truth was another day Lily could weave her own narrative, live her childhood wonder. They could navigate these waters together, slowly sailing towards clarity. Yet, as laughter filled the air and the sun began its descent, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the edge of something monumental. What other surprises lay in the hidden corners of their family tree? The thought sent shivers down his spine, for in that tangled history lay secrets that could reshape everything they thought they knew. And as he watched Lily twirl with joy, he knew they were on the brink of a revelation that might forever change their lives. What lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered? Joe wiped the last remnants of ice cream from Lily's chin, trying to suppress the impending storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. As they gathered their belongings and strolled toward the car, he caught Sarah's gaze, filled with the same mixture of excitement and dread that had defined their conversation. Where should we go for our special family day? Lily chimed in, skipping along the sidewalk. The innocence in her voice made Joe's heart twist. It was so easy for her to be excited about adventures, so simple for her to dream about treasure hunts and historical explorations. He wanted her to remain wrapped in that childhood bubble for as long as possible before reality crashed in. How about the old community center? Sarah suggested, voice lively. It has so many stories, and we can even explore the museum part. Great idea. Lily clapped her hands, seemingly unaware that every suggestion was a step closer to potentially unveiling truths they had carefully shielded her from. As they drove down familiar streets, Joe stared at the passing scenery, his mind racing. The community center loomed ahead, an unassuming brick structure that was part of their small town's heart. Memories of laughter, celebrations, and gatherings filled the air around it, but today it felt different to Joe. It felt heavy with secrets. Lily practically bounded out of the car, her excitement palpable, as they walked through the doors. The cool air inside was a relief from the warmth outside. Yet it couldn't chill the heat of Joe's anxiety. They entered a room filled with artifacts and displays showcasing the town's history. Lily's eyes widened at the colorful exhibits, her imaginary treasure hunt unfolding with each artifact she pointed at. "What's that one, Mommy?" she asked, standing in front of an old photograph of a family gathered around a table, smiling but distant. "That's a family from long ago," Sarah replied, kneeling beside Lily. Just like ours, they had their own stories to tell. Joe felt a tightness in his chest as he watched them. Would Lily ever understand the complexities that real families faced? Would the day contain the spark of revelations or remain shrouded in fun and laughter? Lily dashed to another exhibit, pulling Joe along behind her. "Look, this one has a treasure map." He forced a laugh. "Looks like we've got a real explorer here." His heart sank at the thought that Lily's innocent exploration might uncover something far more profound than she bargained for. As they explored, they stumbled into a small room dedicated to family heritage. The walls were adorned with family trees, each filled with names and stories like theirs that would eventually intertwine with Lily's. Feeling a strange pull, Joe moved toward a large tree displaying names that reached back generations. His fingers traced the branches, a connection to a past he had tried to keep buried. It took just a moment to pull him into his memories, the good, the bad, and especially the decisions that led them here. "Dad, can we put our names on this tree too?" Lily's voice broke through his thoughts, full of hope and innocence. He hesitated, glancing at Sarah, but his heart knew the answer. "Of course, sweetie." Sarah smiled softly at them both, a flicker of understanding passing between them. They would make this moment guiding an invitation to know where they all came from, even if it soon meant revealing more than they intended. As Lily giggled and pretended to climb the branches, Joe felt a weight lift ever so slightly. Maybe today is the start after all, he mused to himself. Maybe it's the right time. But as they began to fill out the paper leaves shaped like hearts, the door swung open, and an old woman with a familiar face stepped inside. She paused, her eyes locking in on Joe, her face lighting up with recognition and something deeper, something unnerving. "Joe?" Her voice was shaky, and the spark in her eyes held the weight of 1,000 stories. He felt the ground shift beneath him, dread sinking in. Who was she, and what did she know? The chill of reality seeped back in. The secrets that had been hidden were ready to resurface. As he stared into her eyes, uneasy recognition settled over him. They were about to stir a past that could change everything. What did she know that they didn't? Joe's heart raced, the ground beneath him feeling as if it had cracked open. The woman's voice echoed in his mind, a ghostly reminder of a past he thought he could still keep buried. He stood frozen, unsure if he wanted to take a step closer or run away. "Joe," she repeated gently but firmly. "It's me, Margaret. I've been looking for you." Margaret, the name hit him like a punch to the gut. A part of his history he had long shoved aside. She had been a family friend, tied to moments of warmth and laughter in his childhood. But she carried a secret he feared might unravel everything he fought to hold together. Why was she here now, when he was struggling to piece together his family's broken edges? "Margaret, what are you doing here?" His voice wavered, chest tight, as he sensed Sarah pressing closer beside him. "I found something that connects our families in a way you need to know," she said, her expression serious. "Is Lily involved?" Joe blurted out, protective instincts surging. He felt Sarah's tension beside him. They had come so far, was everything about to collapse? No, no, Margaret reassured him, hands raised in surrender. This is just between us adults for now. It's about your past, Joe. About your father. Instinctively, Joe stepped in front of Lily, who had been tugging Sarah's arm, impatient for sweets and stories. You're not making any sense. What does my father have to do with anything? Margaret's eyes softened, and Joe could see the decades of history between them weighing down on this moment. You deserve to know the truth before it affects Lily. I came across documents and evidence regarding your father's legacy, things he never shared. Joe's world tilted. The man he had idolized but never fully understood was suddenly being dragged into his present. What do you mean? What did he leave behind? He was involved in something much bigger, Joe. He had secrets that shaped all of your lives, and they shape Lily's, too. As she spoke, Joe felt the weight of her words crack open a doorway to painful realizations. His mind flashed to the past, hidden letters, whispered conversations, the sense of longing for answers that went always unanswered. Butterflies danced in his stomach, a mix of fear and anticipation. Let us sit down, Sarah urged, reaching out for his hand. There was warmth in her touch, a grounding force that steered him away from the storm within. Joe led the way to a table in the corner of the heritage room, away from the prying eyes of bustling children and involved parents. As they settled, he glanced at Lily, who was momentarily distracted by a clump of kids forming a game of tag outside the window. They were blissfully unaware of the whirlwind of secrets circling just a few feet away. Joe, the truth can be painful, Margaret began, the kindness in her gaze urging him to open his heart. But it's vital for your family to understand. You see, your father had connections to a company involved in major decisions affecting the town, and she hesitated, gathering her thoughts. There's a chance Lily might inherit something important, the trust established for the family legacy. But he never told me. Joe's voice was barely a whisper. How could his father keep such monumental secrets? For a moment all his anger flared anew, a bittersweet pain piercing the fabric of his memories. It was complicated, Margaret whispered. Your father wanted to shield you from the burdens of his past, but that shield has cast shadows over your life today. You need to embrace it if you wish to help Lily and if you wish to finally heal. Joe clenched his fists on the table, emotions thrumming dangerously. Why now? Why come to me now after so much has happened? Because more is at stake. The family histories are intertwined, and those who know the truth are slowly passing on. Margaret said earnestly, locking eyes with him. He felt waves of vulnerability crash over him, exposing layers of hurt he thought he had buried. He glanced at Sarah. She was drawing comfort from this conversation too, the shared connection in the face of uncertainty. What kind of legacy? Joe asked, pressing through the knot of fear. Margaret had opened a door. Now he had to follow through. Your father was part of a local initiative, a group dedicated to protecting children left in vulnerable situations and addressing domestic violence similar to what Sarah faced. It was more than sustaining a clothing line. He was giving his time and resources to save stories. The pieces fell like a puzzle. His father's quiet lessons and his own shadows suddenly morphed into something tangible. It's why he wanted you to marry Sarah. He believed in families healing together. Joe's breath hitched. Could it really be true that there was purpose behind the fractured connections? Painful realizations shone through cracks of certainty, igniting a flicker of hope. Lily deserves to know who she is, Joe, Sarah chimed in softly, her voice steady. And so do we. If these truths can help us bridge the gaps, we need to uncover them together. We'll face it, we will, he breathed, nodding. The weight, though burdensome, felt lighter. But what do we do now? Now we take the leap, Margaret said gently, as a family. And there it was, a new chapter hung in the air, waiting to be written. The past could inform their future, entwining stories that would bind instead of tear apart. Just then Lily returned, her face bright with excitement. She tugged at Joe's sleeve, oblivious to the heavy air around them. Can we add our names to that big tree now? Joe felt a smile bloom, warm and radiant against the shadows of fear. Yes, sweetheart. Let us add our names. Together. As they moved toward the tree, each step carried the significance of connection. Joe glanced at Sarah, then Margaret, threading stories and hopes into one continuous fabric. With resolute hearts, healing was already taking root. They would allow the past to unveil itself, guide them to the light even if it felt daunting. The ice cream might melt, but this moment now had a heartbeat of hope. Together as family they could forge on, embracing the truth that would ultimately make them whole. Each heartbeat echoed a promise of renewal and love, stirring beneath their skin ready to take on whatever awaited them in the revelations ahead. The journey was just beginning. Joe's voice rang out in the vibrant room, a reassuring melody amid the chaos. Let us write our names and weave our own story for the world to see. In that small act he felt alive. Reunited with his family and tangled pasts, they stepped forward, ready to define their own future, carving a path of transformation and love that their hearts had long desired. Now's the time for you to become part of this unfolding story. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the journey alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand how much your support means.